Greetings, digital world, and welcome back once again to another episode of Spliced In Later. Apologies in advance if I sound a bit flat or anything like that. I'm not feeling very well at the moment, so, I sound terrible even when I sound healthy. So if my voice drops out or if I seem even more scatterbrained than usual, it is just that, and I do apologize. But I really wanted to get this review out to you. I didn't want to wait, because it's been quite some time since I reviewed a movie that hit the cinemas. I believe my last one was League of Super Pets, I think. I know I reviewed Pinocchio, but that was on streaming. And I know I reviewed Dragon Ball Superhero, but I don't know if that came before or after Super Pets. My whole life this year is a blur. But I saw this movie last night. I couldn't review it as soon as I saw it because I was about to die. So we're going to push on. And again, apologies if it sounds bloody awful. But today we're reviewing the newest DC film to be released. A film that is part of the DC Extended Universe. So where Marvel has the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all these worlds are connected, DC has the DC Extended Universe. And this includes Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League, or Zack Snyder's Justice League, whichever Justice League you would like. Aquaman, Shazam, Birds of Prey, and The Suicide Squad. It's Black Adam, starring Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson's been talking about this Black Adam film for as long as I can remember. It's clearly been something very special to him that he wanted to do. To a point where Black Adam was coming out before Shazam. If you're unfamiliar with the DC Comics, Black Adam is or was the arch enemy of Shazam, but I think now he's an anti-hero or he's a hero. I don't know. Supervillains and superheroes in comics swap sides all the time. But anyway, Black Adam was supposed to come before Shazam, and then I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but Shazam came out first, and then Black Adam had to deal with the pandemic and all of that stuff. But finally, after years and years of Dwayne Johnson talking about this movie, Black Adam is officially out. Now, unlike the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has been steadily building on a plan, or at least stayed true or on a certain path, the DCEU has been completely all over the place. I wouldn't blame the movies per se. I blame a lot of, obviously, behind the scenes stuff. DC's always been playing the catch-up game when it comes to the MCU in terms of trying to establish a shared film continuity. They were late to the game. They didn't start until 2013 after the Avengers had come out. And I think the idea was they didn't want to take the time that Marvel did to have all these separate films establishing all their characters before bringing everybody together. They jumped the gun by immediately throwing Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman into a film together, and then into the Justice League with Aquaman and Flash and Cyborg, without really introducing everybody or giving anybody the time to know these characters apart from just brand recognition, which is fine if the movie that you introduce them in, you do make it long enough or substance enough to give the characters depth and personality, which is why I think Zack Snyder's Justice League, which came out last year, which is a 4-hour version, while too long also, does take the time to really flesh out all these characters. Much better received than the Justice League, the mess that was the Joss Whedon collaboration cut that we got in 2017. And the tone has been all over the place as well. It's started off as dark and gritty, and then you can very much see in what was David Ayer's Suicide Squad a reflection of Marvel's success where they tried to turn it into their own Guardian-style movie. And then you'll have things where, like, Wonder Woman is really, really quite good, surprisingly good. So they put a sequel on that, but then the sequel is an overstuffed mess. Or you'll have something like Suicide Squad be not particularly great, but then you get James Gunn in to do the Suicide Squad, and it's leagues and bounds better. So it's all over the place, and it's hard to really know what the hell's going on, because they all insist on having all these different characters cameo in, whether it's Flash showing up in Suicide Squad, or Batman showing up in Suicide Squad, or anything like. I don't want to use Suicide Squad as the only example, but they have popped up all over the place. But the problem is, because there's no consistency, you don't really know what the point is. There's nothing really hinting at a bigger plan or anything like that. It's just, remember that this movie is with everything else, which is fine, but there's just no substance to it. So that's why I obviously prefer my MCU to DCEU, but I don't want anybody now to just be like, oh, yeah, it's a Marvel fanboy. It's always Marvel good, DC bad. Because in the last few years, in my opinion, DC has made a ton of movies that are better than the Marvel movies that have come out, even if they're not part of the DCEU. The Suicide Squad in 2021, The Batman this year, Joker in 2019, hell, even Birds of Prey, starring Margot Robbie, I all think are better than Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness or Thor: Love and Thunder. So it's not necessarily me choosing a side and just naturally going, this one's better and the other's not. I honestly look forward to a movie being good, regardless of which comic person is behind it. And because the Suicide Squad was so good, because the Batman was so good, and from what I could see of trailers, it seemed like Black Adam would be really good too. And I have loved Dwayne Johnson. We've talked about him when I reviewed Jungle Cruise. He's a very charming, funny guy. He may not be the best actor in the world, but for the most part, watching him is entertaining. So I went and saw Black Adam. I was very hyped for it. And I have to sadly report that I didn't enjoy it all that much. I thought it was a bit of a snooze fest. And I will controversially say that I enjoyed Morbius more. Not because Morbius is a better movie. Morbius, at least, was fun because it was so silly that you could laugh at it. Black Adam, unfortunately, is just a very bland, boring, depressing sort of film, which is a shame. So we'll get more into it now, though. But I do want to put a disclaimer in. As I said at the start, I'm not feeling all that great. I've been through some stuff in the last couple of days. So that may have impacted my ability to enjoy this movie. I don't think it did, but I'm just putting that disclaimer out there. I may be being harsher on it than I would be normally. I still don't think I would have enjoyed it if everything was going my way. But it is possible that being gloomy already might make me have a more gloomier attitude. So there's that. When Black Adam eventually comes out on DVD and I eventually buy it, I will rewatch it. And I'll be interested to see my reaction to it when my head is in a much better space. But let's get into the review, finally. So the basic plot for Black Adam, without getting into spoilers here, and I wouldn't worry, even though he is in the Shazam world, you don't need to have seen Shazam to understand who he is or what's going on. Completely disconnected to that world, so that's fine. But Black Adam tells the story of Tef Adam, played by Dwayne Johnson, who in the olden years and thousands of years ago, some would say, in a place called Karnak, he was a slave to a terrible king who subjugated his people, including Tef Adam's family. During a rise up against the king, Tef Adam eventually gets the powers of Shazam. So all the power Shazam has, he has. He's basically Superman when he says Shazam. Some stuff happened. He did take down the king, but was imprisoned in a tomb. We then flash forward to the present, where this place, Karnak, is being ruled by a gang or a military force called Intergang. We follow Adriana Tomaz, played by Sarah Shahi, and her family, who are looking for a way to get Intergang out of Karnak. They investigate the crown, the powerful crown that gave the king all his evil powers in the past. They get attacked by Intergang and bad guys, and a scuffle ensues. And in order to save themselves, Adriana somehow releases Tef Adam, or Black Adam, as I'll call him for this because I can't be bothered, releases him from his tomb, wherein he starts murdering people, going around destroying things, which attracts the attention of the Justice Society of America, which includes Aldous Hodges' Hawkman, Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate, and two others, Cyclone and Atom Smasher. They all fly to Karnak to put a stop to Black Adam. Meanwhile, obviously, this crown, much like the Tesseract and the Infinity Stones and the whatever they're called in the Justice League, the cubes that give Steppenwolf his power, whatever. It's going to fall into the hands of a bad guy, meaning eventually everybody is going to have to work together to save Kahndaq from evil forces. That's basically it. I don't want to talk too much about the plot itself because, as I've said in the past, I like people to go to these movies and experience it for themselves. However, there is one thing I want to get out of the way. If you have seen any trailer for this movie, I'm so sorry. Because there's a whole thing in this movie that's played out like it's supposed to be a twist. You're not supposed to know the information that they're about to drop on you in a big bomb of, oh my god, I can't believe it. But the very first trailer for Black Adam spoiled that. It already told you Black Adam's history and his origin, but the movie acts like you shouldn't know that. Now again, that's not the movie's fault. That's marketing. I don't know what goes through the heads of people sometimes when they go through marketing. It's like back in when I started this podcast and I talked about Terminator Genesis and the John Connor issue of it all. But the same thing's happened here. So if you're one of those lucky people that hasn't seen a Black Adam trailer yet, but is thinking of seeing Black Adam, don't watch that trailer. Go and see the movie before that happens, because it will completely distort your ability to appreciate the film, because you have information that the movie would assume you don't have. There that is. Now let's focus on the positives here. What did I like about the movie? Well, I like the idea of Black Adam. I liked the idea of a movie focusing on this character. I am unfamiliar with Black Adam in the comics. I know about him by name only. I know that he's the villain for Shazam. I played as him on the Injustice video games. I couldn't tell you anything about his origins or his drive or his motivations. I did know the word Kahndaq. When that happened in the movie, I went, I'm familiar with that word. But I don't know. I had a quick look, and yeah, apparently in recent years, he's gone from just being a very villainous villain to an anti-hero who saves people with collateral damage of sort. Which brings me to the point, well, no, I'll talk about this point later, the anti-hero issue. I do want to get into that, but we're focusing on the positives right now. So for the most part, the movie does commit to that type of character for Black Adam. Like, he kills people. It's not something like Morbius, where Morbius has a brief moment when he transforms into a vampire for the first time and kills a few bastards. Black Adam really racks up the kill count here, and his kill counts are very creative, whether he's electrocuting people so much that they disintegrate, or he's throwing people so hard that their arms literally fall off, or he's putting grenades in people's mouth. They're pretty cool. They're pretty intense. It's a shame that the movie didn't get its R rating like it might have supposed to have been getting when it was originally being made, because some of the kills, by not committing to the blood and gore, do take you out of it a little bit. But it's entertaining. It's a new direction for a character in a superhero film to be doing that. Because we've had movies about villains before, Venom and Morbius, but they haven't really done that. The closest is Joker, but Joker is a much more grounded, realized film. You could be mistaken for thinking that Joker is not set in a comic book world. But this is the first time for a Marvel or DC movie focusing on a supervillain or an anti-hero, whatever you want to call it, where when they say he's going to kill people, mother hell fucker, he's going to kill people. So I liked that. That was fun. And I thought the Justice Society was an interesting batch of superheroes that haven't been on the screen before. My favorite of the bunch was Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate. Pierce Brosnan is a great actor. He was acting circles around everybody else. And the Dr. Fate character is interesting. A superhero who can see the future and knows what's coming, but has to act accordingly. It's sort of like if Doctor Strange had known the future for Infinity War right at the start, rather than at the end. Aldous Hodge's Hawkman as well, I thought was pretty cool. He's got a real interesting rivalry with Black Adam. How Hawkman's all about, we save people, but we don't kill people. He's the true justice hero. Superman would be proud of him. Because everything Black Adam does and stands for, Hawkman is all against that. So they have a few confrontations, and Hawkman looks pretty cool. His outfit's pretty awesome in the movie too. Unfortunately, those are really the only positives I have to do here. I'm going to go into the negatives now, but I'm not going to be too negative about it. I'm going to be fair and kind. It's just stuff that prevented me from enjoying the movie per se. First off, the cinematography is too grungy. Everything looks colorless and dark, which is fine if you're going for that theme in your movie. But for me personally, nothing bounced off the screen for me. It was all very drab and emotionless. And furthermore, you have that sort of tone, but then there were weird moments of comedy in here as well. It's sort of like somebody went, "Oh, this movie's too serious. It's a comic book movie. We need comedy. We don't want people to be upset. Quick, put a few jokes in here." And the jokes are so out of place and at the expense of the characters that you're focusing on that it really doesn't gel well. For example, there's a scene where the Justice Society are deciding to have a chat with Black Adam. Rather than fight him, they're going to talk. So they walk into his throne room or church, wherever he's hanging out. Adam Smasher has a box of chicken, a bucket of chicken wings, and he's eating them. And then Dr. Fate notices he's eating the chicken wings, and he gets annoyed, and he makes them disappear. All of this is done without any words. There's if you're smart, I guess you can fathom that, okay, Adam Smasher's power is that he can change sizes. So if he's anything like the Flash, I guess that burns metabolism, so he would get hungry and he needs to replace that. Except that he does that again multiple times in the movie, but you don't see him eating food afterwards. So I don't really think it's that. I think it's just that Adam Smasher in the movie is 100% comic relief. He doesn't really have any sort of emotional stakes or connection to anything that's going on. He's just one of the new recruits to the Justice Society. So he's overwhelmed by all the superheroes he's hanging out with and at the situation. So he'll often say and do stupid things. But then you're like, where did he get the chicken? When did he have time to go and get a bucket of chicken? Why did he decide to do that at that point? Why would Dr. Fate let him buy the chicken and then go, hang on, you can't have chicken, and make it go away? It's just something that makes you go, why? Why did that happen? Why did, when they made the movie, they go back and watch it all and go, yeah, that's funny. That'll work. I don't know, but that's just an example of several things like that. Dwayne Johnson, for example, he is funny. He does really well when he's a charming, cheeky guy. Unfortunately, as Black Adam, I guess he must love the character, and that's great, but he's not the right person to play him, in my opinion. If Black Adam is supposed to be silent and somber and menacing, that's not the type of role Dwayne Johnson should be playing. If Black Adam had been violent, but also cocky, and had made a few quips here and there, would have been fine. But because Dwayne Johnson is playing him so stark and serious, he just comes across, his bad acting comes to the surface. You're very aware that he's just floating around with a scowl on his face, and then he murders people. And then every now and then, he does try and say something funny, but then that doesn't gel with the character that's been established beforehand. And there's a point at the end where he's saying goodbye to Adam Smasher, and the Black Adam character just completely drops away, and it's just Dwayne Johnson. So it's jarring stuff like that that just pulls you out of the movie itself. The acting as well, the dialogue is very cheesy even by our comic book standards. The acting I don't think is particularly great. A lot of people seem to just be memorizing the lines from the script and reading them without any sort of emotional weight behind them. As I said, Pierce Brosnan is pretty good, but it's Pierce Brosnan. But I mean, it's not really a spoiler to say Viola Davis pops in for a couple of scenes as Amanda Waller in here. And you can tell Viola Davis is just standing in front of a green screen. Someone's probably holding up cue cards and she's just reading what's there. She even sounds bored. I don't think Waller is grumpy by nature. I think as Viola Davis just is like, why am I still playing this character? Why do I have to pop up in every single DC thing that's coming? There's a character from Peacemaker that shows up in this movie, but in contrast to the Peacemaker show, doesn't make a lot of sense for her to be there. So yeah, the tone, completely all over the place. It doesn't look particularly nice with the cinematography. The acting and the characters are pretty bland and lifeless. And the real issue I have with the film as well is this problem that I mentioned earlier. It's called the anti-hero problem. So the whole thing about leading up to this movie is that Black Adam is an anti-hero. He's not a hero. The marketing has always been they wanted a hero. They got Black Adam. And he says multiple times in the movie, I'm not a hero. People are like, we don't need a hero. We need a protector. I don't know why those two things are different, but whatever. Which speaks to me about the inability to commit to one thing or another. And it's the same problem that has come up with all the other stuff that's come out about villains who, at the end of the day, became anti-heroes. So you have your Morbius and you have your Venom. Those are the two prime examples here. Where you take a villainous character in the comics, you put them in a movie, but you need them to be the star. You need them to be the protagonist, which means, unlike the Joker, if you're making a superhero movie about a villain, you need him or her, not that there's been a her yet, you need them to be able to be relatable to the audience. I get that. Which means, more often than not, there will be another character introduced in the movie who is more evil than the villain that we're following. Meaning that the villain has to step up and stop that other villainous person from being more villainous than they are. They always shy away from who they kill. Black Adam, he does rack up the kill count here, but everybody he kills is treated like they're bad, so it was okay to kill them. That's another tonal imbalance here as well, is that obviously the Justice Society has a problem with Black Adam killing people, but it's played for laughs. And then at the end, they're sort of like, hey, just stop killing people. And Black Adam's like, I do what I want. It's like, okay, right, whatever. But if you have an anti-hero who's still fighting bad guys and saving the day, the simple act of them not killing people or killing people shouldn't determine what a hero or an anti-hero is. I'm not a fan of the term anti-hero, and I don't like that in order to make movies about villains, you have to turn them into anti-heroes in order to make them. I want a Venom movie where Venom bites off the head of complete innocence. I want a movie where Morbius sucks the blood out of somebody just walking down an alleyway. And I want a movie where Black Adam is this unstoppable killing machine that requires Shazam to come and get him. And instead what we're getting is these nefarious characters, but they're not as nefarious as the more nefarious person that's in the movie. And at the end of the day, they'll still protect the innocent and make a few jokes along the way. So I'm tired of the anti-hero term. There's no such thing as an anti-hero. There's either a hero or a villain. An anti-hero is just this term used to safely explain why a villain is not being a villain, but they're not a hero. And Black Adam, I don't care how many times you say to me, I'm not a hero, or heroes don't do this. If he's still saving the day, he's a hero, or he's the protagonist. Anti-hero, get away from me from that. Black Adam gets a 4 out of 10 from me. It's low. I apologize. As I said in advance, this could be because of what I'm going through at the moment. However, I just didn't get any enjoyment out of it. And I remember when I was sitting there watching the movie, I was just like, I just want this to be over. I'm not having fun. Unless there's like a second act twist that really puts things into perspective for me. I don't think it's going to get higher on the ranking for me. And there is a second act twist. Unfortunately, I knew what the twist was because I saw a trailer for Black Adam, which made me even more angry. What I'm annoyed about as well is obviously what's leaked is the post-credits scene for Black Adam, which I'm annoyed about because that leaked before I had a chance to see the movie. So I already knew what the post-credits scene was. But because of who shows up in that post-credits scene, that's all anyone's going to be talking about Black Adam, which it shits me because it's that thing where people go and see movies because of potential cameos and potential hints at other movies. Focus on making your own movie good first before you start planning other movies. Yes, it's cool that character shows up in the post-credit scene. It would be cool if Black Adam and that character were to face off. But by retrospective, by having that character show up, by having that post-credit scene, does not make the Black Adam movie, everything leading up to it, better. And it doesn't mean people should go Black Adam the movie wasn't great, but because of that post-credit scene, I'm excited to see what happens in Black Adam 2. No. Look, I'm tripping over myself here. I've given you my review. I've given you my mark. I apologize if there are Black Adam fans. I apologize if I've annoyed people. As I said, I'm not doing too great, so the movie might be better than what I'm giving it. But I don't think by much. I think my overall opinion will not change. And I am disappointed about that because I love Dwayne Johnson. I can't wait to see a movie soon again that he's in where he actually plays to his strengths. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this miserable review. I did enjoy talking about it. Contrary to popular belief, every now and then when I do give a bad review, which doesn't happen very often, it's actually fun because it goes to a place that I don't normally go to. That said, I don't like to stay here too long, so I hope the next movie I see, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, is a million times better. Anyway, this was a mess. Thank you very much for listening. I will be back next week, hopefully, if I'm still around. I think what I'm going to do is House of the Dragon's going to have its last episode at the end, before my next episode. So I'll talk about that. I'll talk about the first season of House of the Dragon with a retrospective on Game of Thrones as a whole. That should be an interesting episode. It's a good idea that I just came up with. I'm glad I did that. So until then, I love and appreciate you all as always. Thank you for listening to me be a miserable old fuck. It's been fun. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.